Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to Man the Helm. This is the video version of the podcast for the week. If you want to check out the audio version, that's available wherever you stream your podcasts. But before we get to it, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. You already know what to do. Let's get to today's video. Welcome back to Man the Helm podcast. I'm your host, Jake. Today I'm sitting down with Corey Congilio. What's up, dude?
Hey, how are you?
I'm not doing too bad, man. So this podcast is music based, but it's more about like taking control of your life and driving it in the direction you want it to go. And I think you've done a really good job of doing that. But for listeners that may not know who you are, can we just maybe start maybe at your backstory, maybe kind of how you started playing? We don't have to go too far back, but then kind of progress to where we are today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can give you the nutshell. I like that that's the direction of your podcast too, because it's usually the missing piece when it comes to all this kind of stuff.
For sure.
So yeah, I started playing at around 13 and quickly decided that's what I wanted to do for a living. And um, it was always like, you know, s- I thought I was going to be, the Mike Campbell or the George Marinelli or somebody that was like kind of a Buddy Miller popular side person,
Right.
play. And I've done that for a long, long time in all styles, like contemporary styles, blues, rock, R&B, country, Americana now, singer-songwriter, whatever. I could do just about all of it. But that over a 20-year period, kind of kept having me hit a ceiling where I never had the biggest, highest paying gigs in the world.
For sure.
And I never had the lowest paying ones either. It was always somewhere in the middle. But with that, it's tough to kind of grow as an adult, and buy a house and furnish it and all those kinds of things. So in the alongside of that, I always been a teacher. And in like 2010-ish, I put out maybe somewhere between 2007 and 2010. I started putting out guitar courses online. I was teaching private students in a little music store, and that evolved over time into now having this year 20 well from early 2022 I started my own sort of lesson platform, in addition to all of the stuff I do on YouTube and whatever other social media of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important for people to understand, and that's one of the things I keep trying to bring back is like you have to wear so many multiple hats and have so many different, avenues if you really want to, make a living. You're not just gonna go play gigs, you're not just gonna be doing sessions, you have to do like 15 things, like you said.
You're absolutely right, and I've been doing all those things for many, many years. I've been a presenter. I've done clinics, like NAM shows and
Hmm.
touring the country with Martin Guitar and the world. I used to work for Fishman Electronics, and I would go to different countries and do demos of their gear and help. A lot of those companies, they have distributors around the world who need help sort of translating the message, or they translate the message, I guess, for us into their language or whatever.
Right.
And um, so I've done it all, and it's always been some side of guitar related or music related job,
Hmm.
even though it's not always like playing arenas and doing sessions. There's been some
Yeah.
of that, but
Well, and I think one of the problems that I see a lot of people, especially starting off, is they don't really know like where to start, because you hear these stories about people that have worked for companies or they've got these gigs or they've got, stuff like that, but they don't really have like the how to they got into that, so to speak.
right.
And my biggest thing for at least advice that I've given is just like, dude, you just gotta do it. You know what I mean? You just start putting yourself out there, and the good thing about the time we live in right now, it's like you don't necessarily have to move down to like a music city. You don't have to go to Nashville. You don't have to go to LA, New York. I mean, it helps, but with the all the resources and networking you have through the internet, you know what I mean? Like you can get some cool stuff happening for you if you start putting yourself out.
Yeah, it's really interesting because um, I will say that living in Nashville has afforded me
For sure.
some things that other areas might not, but I have plenty of friends that live all over the world and
Hmm.
are online based only, And on a monetary level, they're as successful making music as anybody, anywhere else, and certainly probably more so than here.
Hmm. Well, I think it's just like it's starting and putting yourself out, but also having like a game plan for what you want to do. Because like if you just want to teach, you're completely capable of doing that anywhere in the world, just online. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're totally right.
But if you want to gig, then yeah, you probably do need to be moving to one of those hubs to kind of get those gigs.
Yes and no, because what Nashville is guilty of is making it look amazing
Right.
online. And it's a great, great place. I love living here, and I try to think about where would I move, and it's hard to
Hmm.
because climate's good. It's still relatively affordable on the outskirts of town. When you're like 30 minutes outside of Nashville type things. Um, but there are no like 3 or 4 night a week 3 hour sets
Right.
aside from the Broadway scene, which is
Hmm.
all the standard country rock covers. If that's what you're into and you want to take an amp on a dolly and fight all the drunk people and traffic and all that, like, then go for it. It's there's people making $400 a night there, and if you're doing that, sometimes doing doubles or triples in a day, and you're making 2-3 grand a week playing that stuff, go ahead. But for me, what comes with that is like I gotta avoid drinking too much. I
Yep.
gotta avoid, any other kind of like weirdo stuff that can happen down there. People get, assaulted or who knows what. But where I came from, it was not unheard of to have 2 or 3 gigs a week that were blues and R&B, dance gigs, stuff like that, where you could, improvise a little bit on top of playing fun songs. That doesn't exist all that much like it might in like a Florida situation, right?
Right.
Tourists or, maybe in Northern California or, I know people that moved here who they're like, man, I used to play 3 or 4 like open acoustic, nights a week. And I'm like, well, that's probably not going to happen here. Like,
Hmm.
you're just going to be fighting everybody else who came from every other town to try and do that. And it just doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah, dude. I'm actually in the exact scenario you just talked about. I'm 30-ish minutes north of Nashville. It's cheaper to live up here, and if I get gigs, I can drive down there, and it's no big deal.
Yeah, totally.
But I will say though, I got pretty burnt out on the Broadway stuff pretty quick, man. Because like you just said, it's just like a battle just to get to load in. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like, and then once you get there, it's the same, 100 some songs that you always play everywhere. You know what I mean? And it's cool, but it's not. It just wasn't for me
Yeah, and
either.
you're not, we invest all this time in our sound and our gear, and we don't get
Hmm.
to use any of it,
Right.
because we got to use a backline amp or something cheap and portable that we can take down there. I mean, I see like John Bollinger taking like a Boss Katana
Hmm.
gigs, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't grow up playing guitar to play through a Boss Katana. No offense to Boss Katanas, but
Yeah.
you buy this nice shit and you want to use it.
Well, that's one of the things that drives me nuts when you hear people that kind of get sucked into that like perpetual loop, I call it, of like the cover gig stuff. It's like, well, the audience doesn't care. It's like, well, I care what
Yeah,
I'm playing through. You know
yeah,
what I mean? It's going to be different for me as a player if I'm playing through something awesome that I really love versus some twin that's been backline for 15 years. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Never had the
Like,
tube change.
right. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. But with the online stuff, I think that's kind of the route that a lot of people are starting to see is really I don't know if tangible would be the right word, but you get a lot of like it's not the same as playing live. I love playing live. You get that connection with the audience and stuff like that. But it seems like there's more of a stable community online once you start to create it, through like your channels or
Yeah,
podcasts or whatever, you know what I mean? You actually get fans,
you
of
do.
what you're doing.
And you're the first person I've ever heard say that from a sense of like, I know you get it. Like I can tell already.
Hmm.
Like, because there's two ways. Like if I was maybe 19 years old and let's say I loved like aerial posing.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm gonna devote myself to being the next aerial posing. I want to play slide, I'm gonna change my tuning, I'm gonna do, okay, well you better get really freaking good at it
Right.
because you're gonna be that guy, right?
Hmm.
Or someone like me that said, I got to eat. I'm going to get really good at a lot of things. I can play country a little bit. I can play R&B. I can play blues. I can, and I'm hireable. I can sing background vocals. I can sing lead vocals. Um, then I started to develop this like these video chops and
Hmm.
presenting chops and, trying to say, well, I should probably say like learn how to speak really clearly and directly to a lens. Like all those kinds of things are all skill sets to keep me employed.
Yeah,
Because I could certainly go wait tables or work at Starbucks and just play what I wanted to play, but
absolutely.
I wouldn't necessarily have as much fun and meet all the people I'm meeting and become friends with, like people I never thought I'd become friends with,
Yeah.
this online community.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, because when you get to do these, bigger shows, like your Gear Fest, your NAMs, your stuff like that, where you get to actually go meet people like once or twice a year that are constantly talking with,
Yeah.
it's almost like just hanging out with a friend you haven't seen in forever. You know what I mean?
That's the appeal of trade shows for most of us is not so much about the gear because we could see the gear anytime we
Right.
want now, but like I get together with, I get to see Tim Pierce,
Hmm.
I get to see Pete Thorne or whatever, and or even my friends at companies like my friend at Two Rock or my friends at Universal Audio. Like I don't see them but once a year, if that.
Yeah, that's the only drawback I see with it because it's like it's not really a drawback, but it's more of like you got to stay just really mentally focused and sharp when you're doing the online stuff,
Yeah.
because you'll especially starting out. I know from just my personal experience. You know what I mean? You're not seeing any headway, and then you're looking at people, like for instance yourself or any other like person that's been online for a substantial amount of time, and now you start comparing yourself. It's like, well, there's no point to compare because yeah, if they put in the work for however many years, you're not obviously going to be like them in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, even maybe even 2 or 3 years, you
No,
know?
it's a conversation that you need to keep having with
Hmm.
yourself and maybe have some other like support system people around you because like I'm to the point now where like I actually have a manager for this stuff.
Okay.
And my manager also works with a lot of other people that
Hmm.
and it was kind of the thing where like he started helping me. I knew those people, they needed help. So we kind of merged and became this like, you know, like how LeBron has like his people, like
Right, right,
like
right.
it's the same kind of thing, because I'm putting myself on that level, right? But
Yeah.
in any case, that alone creates this amazing support system and you're bouncing ideas off of all these people who have been in the game 3 5 years, even 10 years longer than you. It's like you're never going to be able to compare yourself to like Marty Schwartz, who
Hmm.
started at the dawn of YouTube,
Right.
like, and he's awesome at what he does.
Hmm.
He was there at the beginning, and uh the misconception is I talk to people, I don't know, once a month that call me and say, I'm considering making some videos. What do I do? And I'm like, you just got to get started because there is a lane for you. Doesn't matter how many times somebody's shown a pentatonic scale, you haven't shown it.
Exactly.
You know, it's an interesting thing to wrap your brain around.
Well, and that's the thing that I get back to because, like when I was first kind of getting going, and I haven't really been doing this for too long, but it's like that's kind of the mindset I had at first. I was like, well, there's already a Pete Thorne that demos everything. There's already this person that does this. There's already that. And I can't remember who said it to me, but they said those exact words. It's like,
Oh,
but
cool.
you haven't done it. So you might approach it from a different angle that people will connect with. You never know how it's going to roll.
Yeah, and then you start listening to people like Seth Godin, and they talk about I'll have to Google it. The thousand true fan,
Right. Hmm.
mentality, and it's true. Like it literally is true that you only need a certain group of people. Because like if you have 100,000 subscribers, like 30% of that could be the most loyal people,
Exactly.
and that's more than enough.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, especially, I mean, like you said, you have your loyal fans that when you put out anything, whether it's a course, whether it's something on Patreon that you want, a little help with, those true fans that are dedicated to you are most of the time going to follow you over to that, you know, piece of media.
it worked. I mean, when I started doing the teaching thing, I met the TrueFire folks in
Hmm.
uh 2010, no, probably 2008-ish. So, and that's a funny story about just like saying yes to things that you're not comfortable about saying yes to. Like TrueFire's only become really more of a household name in the past like 5 or 6 years, I think.
For sure.
Because I started with them so early. um, they they had a great model and a great system in place, and then they started getting some of the bigger names in, but they were investing in people like me to kind of help build the library of catalog of courses in the catalog. And they said, no, you're building your own audience within our umbrella, which was awesome. And I did do that, and I didn't realize how I was growing. And then I started getting some offers. And what was funny, before I move on from that, I got that connection because I was doing video demos for Fishman back when, people just started doing demos online of
Hmm.
products. And TrueFire was shooting and hosting them because TrueFire had the analytics back and they could say, wow, well, people clicked on this so many times and they like this one more and blah, blah, blah. And that was kind of a new thing back in '07.
Right.
And they asked me, do you teach? I said, yeah, I have like 60 students a week out of a closet in Pittsburgh that I was teaching out of. And I started doing courses with them. It did really well, cultivated an audience. And then I started getting offers from some other people to reach. And I realized I could reach a different audience from my friends like Brett Papa, Eric Andreas, Your Guitar
Hmm.
Sage. And I started doing courses with them and partnering with them. And I was like really concerned. I was like, are people going to get it? Are they going to follow me to these other places? And they did,
Yeah.
and I made sure the content was just different enough of what they couldn't get somewhere else. It had the same thread of information, but it was presented in a different way. Because you also, as a teacher and a presenter, you get better at doing that, just like a
Right.
player. And then once I dropped the email to said, "Hey, I have my own site where all my new courses are going to live for forever," that started taking off. Within, I mean, March will be a year of this year, which
Oh,
is
wow. Yeah.
that it's only been that long. But my working class guitar VIPs are what they're called,
Mm.
are really awesome, and I'm super thankful that they followed me this long.
Well, and it's because they like you. But it's also because you're providing value to them. You know what I mean? You're giving them something that they truly enjoy. It's not just like a run of the mill course that you could just Google real quick and get some free lessons real quick. Like
Right.
they're getting the lesson, but they're also they enjoy you teaching it. That's the biggest thing, you
I
know.
It's taken me a while to figure that out, but I have a good
Right.
you're they do like my delivery, and for whatever reason.
Well, and it's like you look at anybody on social media. I mean, just take your favorite, whoever your favorite YouTuber is on whatever space. It's like if you're looking forward to their videos every week, you're not really caring. Like, yeah, you might care what they're showing you, but you're more just excited to see their video.
Yeah, yeah. And I
You know?
think that's actually starting to happen more and more now on my own channel,
Okay. Yeah.
which is great because YouTube is different because you're casting such a huge net out there.
Yeah.
So you're going to get as many people that you're going to get a lot of, lovely positive comments, but you're going to get plenty of people that, want to combat you. So
For
you take
sure.
it with the bad, and hopefully you gain some fans that way. But it's the single best way to gain and grow your audience that I know of.
Well, and that's also how you get those connections like you were talking about with
Yeah.
like, your people brands that have hit you up. They didn't just hit you up just because they were like, "Oh, he seems like an okay guy."
Yeah.
They hit you up because they saw the work you had put in, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And then the thing that first one I feel like is always hard. That first endorsement, that first sponsorship, whatever it is. But then once you have that, it kind of starts to snowball a little bit. You start to meet other people. It's almost like when you go to like writers' nights down in Nashville or something
Yeah.
like that. You start to
Right.
network with everybody, you know?
You're exactly right. It's just a whole different space of networking than
Exactly.
in the sort of literal music world. And just like in that, you kind of figure out who are the people you like to network them with the most. The
Hmm.
people that say, there's people that will want to say, well, let us see a rough draft of the video. We want to,
Hmm.
like, no, no, no. Like, I'm going to do it. It's going to be classy. It's going to be, not disparaging. It's going to be positive, and let me do it. And then other people are just like, okay, we'd love for you to do a video. We're going to sponsor it. What's your fee? Okay, no questions asked. Here you go.
Yeah.
And you do it. And I try to always come at a friend of mine who's been in the industry for a long time. He works for Harman, and
Okay.
I've known him for years, and he's really smart. And he goes, I never feel like you're shilling the product. I feel like
Yeah.
you're teaching me what you like about it and teaching me how to use it. And that's really all I'm interested in. Like, and I will say no, like this recent, like, the PRS SE stuff that came out. Like, I have a DGT. I love it. I love David Grissom's playing. He's a wonderful guy. I want to promote the shit out of his guitar so he sells a bunch. You know what I mean?
Right.
I like PR. They're friends of mine. PRS is awesome. Like, through PRS, Mark Tremonti reached out and invited me to the Alter Bridge show at the Ryman in a couple
Right.
weeks. And it's like, that would never happen to me otherwise. Like, that's freaking cool. Like, I'm gonna get to hang out with, Mark Tremonti and Miles and all those guys. And
Well, yeah, but that is just
that's how it works.
it's a byproduct of you busting your ass for years,
Yeah, and
you
it's,
know?
making a video of the quality that I'm trying to do right now in this little 10 by 12 room with 2 cameras and a softbox. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I think people, they like over glamorize the demo channel in the music space, or the, lesson channel, and they don't really realize, just like you were talking about earlier, how you kind of have to get used to just talking to a camera, and how that's within a skill within itself,
Yeah,
not having so many ums and you know what I mean?
I had plenty of those.
Absolutely. But
You
it's,
can edit those out now.
well, true, true.
No, but I try to make it pretty conversational.
Well, yeah, and it's the other thing too. You're the only reason why you're as successful as you are is because you truly love it. I mean, even if you weren't making stuff on YouTube, you would still be teaching in some capacity. I'm sure you
Oh
would
yeah.
still be showing off gear in some way. I'm sure, you know what I mean. It wouldn't just be I'm not making money, so I'm not going to do this anymore.
Right,
You
exactly.
know.
Exactly. It's and it all again, it's kind of like I like to take the crow's nest view, and I
Hmm.
like to see like, okay, where is our industry going and
Right.
where is it currently? And I've been around too much of the, Nashville machine to see that wherever it's going, it's not benefiting the people who are the lunch pail musicians.
Hmm.
It hasn't benefited us in a long time, and it's not going to in a way that's sustainable unless I live with 4 other dudes in a house in East Nashville.
Yep, that's what I was just about to say. Unless you're going to have about 6 roommates.
Yeah,
But that's one of the things that I think a lot of people feel uncomfortable about putting themselves out, because when they're doing it on social media, like, it's all on you. Like,
yeah,
you don't have like a support like to fall back on. You know what I mean? And the other thing too, which a lot of people don't realize, that most of the time when you're first starting off, you're not just quitting your 9 to 5. You're keeping that 9 to 5, and you still got to eat, man. You're just
yeah,
doing that on top of it. So it's really like you're working a second job or a third job, or however you want to look at it. You know what I mean? And you need to treat it as such, because if you don't, the quality is going to start to suffer. People are going to notice that you're not really into it. Believe it or not, if you've people listening, you've seen a video
yeah,
where somebody just doesn't care, and you can see it, and you're watching it for about maybe 2 minutes, and you're like, I can't sit through this.
yeah. The
You know?
camera does not lie. You have to, you know, be invested, and part of the investment is frequency.
Yes.
And if you're not frequent enough, you're going to lose your audience.
Hmm.
And what happens is, you know, during 2020, I fielded calls all the time. How do I do, should I buy Final Cut? Should I start doing videos? Should I do that? And I'm like, yeah, go for it. You should, because I'm doing it right now and I'm going full speed because I feel that that's where my life is headed. And then as soon as the touring season picked back up, all those people forgot about it,
Yeah,
um, which is fine. I get it because we need money right now.
for
But,
sure.
I've done plenty of tours where I had to wait, I don't know, 30 days to get my $200 check.
Yeah,
So you tell me what's better.
for sure. Well, to kind of go back a little bit, the thing that I've always tried to tell people, it's like you need to be consistent and honest with yourself first, and then that's going to, carry over into whatever you're trying to do, whether you're playing live, whether you're doing stuff on social media. It's just be consistent and honest with whatever your craft is. If you're a guitar player, singer, whatever, make sure you're putting in the work, putting in the time. If you got a, cover gig coming up, make sure you're nailing it. That way when you
Yeah.
get to the gig, you're not flubbing all over notes and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, just as well as I do, you play some of these gigs and you might not think anybody's watching, but somebody's paying attention to you. You know what I mean? And the
Yeah, that's one
second,
thing I learned here.
yeah, well, and the second you screw up, everybody knows about it. You know what I mean? Or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like, well, yeah, he was okay, but he doesn't know how to play X, Y, or Z because he messed up a few notes here. You know what I mean? Not saying that it's not like gossipy or anything like that, but I've kind of ran into that before
No,
where
people take inventory of
for sure,
thing. Yeah.
you know, but I think that's one of the like things that people don't realize about coming to a music city like that, like or like Nashville. You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
everybody in this area can just absolutely rip at whatever they
Yeah.
do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're not competing. You know, everybody's good. You
Yeah.
know
It's the
that
Olympics.
yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
But the key part to that is the things that people don't understand is like showing up on time and being a cool dude goes so much further than you being able to play.
Yeah. It
You
really does.
know, because if you're a cool hang and you aren't, you know, getting drunk at gigs and, you know, showing up late for practices or, you know, missing rehearsals or whatever you're doing, you know, they're going to really respect you a lot more and they'll forgive your, you know, playing just a little bit. You know, you still got to be good. That's you know, you still got to be at a certain level, but they're not going to, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. That pretty much they're just going to forgive you for, you know, some mistakes that you make. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean it goes along. I've seen plenty of like in the touring situations I've been in where artists will keep players around that are, of average ability,
Exactly.
but have a strong work ethic and a loyalty, um, and are easy to deal with.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Last thing you want to do is, you know, piss off people. And then that's the word on the street that you're, you know, kind of a jerk to work with and you're going to do your own thing. You know what I mean?
And you'll get by for a few years being a jerk, but it catches up to you.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, you know, like you were talking about earlier, everything kind of like snowballs into itself. You know what I mean? Like you never know what you could get just from playing a gig you're not maybe like 100% yes on. Like maybe it's not somebody or something you want to do, but in saying yes to that gig, it could open up an endless amount of possibilities to people.
It's
You know what I
true.
mean?
Yeah, I mean, most of the situations I've been in have come from like when I played with one of my favorite artists. I played with Lucy Silvis. Um, I got that gig playing in another gig that I couldn't stand.
Yeah,
I was doing the gig because my friends were in the band and we had a blast not playing music.
exactly. Yeah.
But I was on a festival and John Osborne, who's Lucy's husband, well, actually the drummer from Brothers Osborne,
Okay.
I'm friends with, and he said, "John, you should talk to Corey about playing with Lucy." And had I not been on that gig, that might not have happened.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Um, One of the best quotes I've ever had on the podcast was from Brian Wampler talking about he likes to live on the uncomfortable. You know, if he feels uncomfortable about something, he immediately says yes to it. And I was just like, that's a heck of a way to think about stuff. You know what I mean? Because it, you never know what's gonna happen. Like I've always had that like that anxiety of you know first time playing with somebody because it's like
Mhm.
I know I'm not going to be good enough on that back of my head. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Oh
gonna
yeah,
you know screw up and but it's also good because you never want to be the best person in the room. You know,
right.
because I learned so much stuff from going to some of those rehearsals from guys that are just miles above me. You know what I mean? And it's like one of the best lessons in the world for you know intermediate players that are trying to get to that next level is playing with dudes that just absolutely are you know rip. You know,
Yeah, and have
so
like a real experience level maybe above you or something
for
too.
sure.
They've experienced things that you haven't, and that is also making them not necessarily like a virtuoso, but someone that's like a stellar, sensitive musician. You know.
Yeah, you know, the life experiences and the ones that will share those life experiences with you on in the hopes that you will not make the same decisions, you know,
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
invaluable, you know.
Yeah.
It's such good advice from those guys. But
Oh,
what are what are some of the challenges when you first started this, man, that you kind of like didn't foresee happening and then like kind of how did you kind of work your way around like with the social media side of things? You know what I
Um,
mean?
yeah. Thanks for clarifying. Because there's plenty of
Oh, I'm
avenues
yeah,
we
my
could go.
bad. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no, no. I'm done. No, something. But one of the biggest things, and I'm still navigating it, um, your schedule and time,
for sure.
and how much effort am I going to put into this video or to this lesson or whatever. Um, and I just kind of started to every month or every quarter, or sometimes it's every week, like start to assess like how much should I be doing a video every week? Should I do one every 2 weeks? By doing it every 2 weeks, does that allow me to make more course content? Because the most important people to me are my subscribers on my lesson site.
For sure.
They need to be, taken care of the most, customer support emails, all that kind of stuff, and also posting fresh stuff for them. What I'm able to do is, as I develop new courses, I they as a subscriber, they get to see the course as it's being built, as
Oh,
opposed to
nice. Yeah.
so they get sort of the back end view, which is pretty cool. We also do monthly Zoom calls with the group. So if there's it'll be 30 people on a call, and they can ask me questions over like 90 minutes or whatever. So it's kind of a fun added bonus, and those are the most important things for me. But I have to get new people interested in that, which is putting out YouTube videos and doing some other things here or there. But it's how much time can I put into creating YouTube videos? Is that going to take away from my subscribers? And that's always kind of flip-flopping back and forth. And just getting time to rest, and
Right.
not like constantly be looking. Like, my wife makes fun of me for like how much I'm looking at, like how many views something has or how many subscribers I got from that video or whatever. It's totally addictive. So I'm usually done working by like 5:30.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. Yeah.
I make sure I'm done, like, because I could take a nap and get up and work more. But what I
Yeah.
realized is that is it a diminishing return sort of a thing. If I work for another 3 hours, will I only produce 45 minutes worth of good output? You know, Whereas today I got up, and I'm working by 7:30, and I had a video that I needed to get done for a course. We call it like a sales video. Basically, you have to do
Okay.
a pitch and basically say, here's what you're going to get in the course. And it's the more interesting you make that, the more attractive it is to someone to kind of sign up for it.
Hmm.
And I've been doing it with TrueFire for all of them, so I have a good idea of how that goes. But I was 2 hours, boom, tons of output. There it was, and it's like, okay, then I went to my acupuncture, then I got lunch. Now I'm here talking to you, and then I'll work some more, and then I'll shut it down.
There you
So it's
go.
like trying to manage this, a schedule is probably one of the hardest thing. And doing something that makes you feel like you're not burning the candle and having all this anxiety for not putting out something every day, or whatever. And you got to think, the people goes back to like the people that are really far ahead of us. Do your homework, because they probably have people working for them, like
True.
editors, and people posting that stuff, where I don't have that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to talk about like, so the main focus for you obviously is, the students, the course that you're doing, and everything else is kind of like that funnel down, like marketing, so to speak. Like, so your Instagram posts, your YouTube, stuff like that is all just being, hoping that people get to the course, correct?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, that's kind of like the day job
Yeah.
aspect of it.
See, that's one of the things I always try to relay to people too. It's like have a main focus, and everything else you do, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, just make sure that you're getting to the main focus of whatever it is. And I think that's one of the reasons why podcasts like attracted me so much, is because it's not really algorithmic. You know what I mean? It's like I kind of control how everything goes,
Right.
and same thing with like you having your website with your courses. It's like that's your thing. There's no third party, tech company that's dictating who gets to see what from you on that.
Right.
you
Right.
know and that's one of the things I've always tried to relay to people. That's one of the most important things with doing something on social media, having something that you can pretty much control, that everything else is just being funneled to. You know what I mean?
Sure. Sure.
And on top of that, if you are like myself, I enjoy gigging. You have to find time to get those gigs, and make sure you're playing well. So I was kind of surprised, because a lot of the guys and girls that I've talked to, being done by 5:30 usually isn't a thing, man. But it's good that you kind of keep yourself to that schedule, because I mean, dude, I was up to like 12:30 last night trying to get some stuff done. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so
I mean, if I had kids, it would probably be really hard. I'd probably have to like do stuff while they were asleep or whatever.
yeah.
But and if I was if I was single, I'd probably like, spend more time burning the candle. But, making time for a healthy relationship
For
helps
sure.
the rest of it go well, because then I have the support from my partner too, where I can say, "Hey, I got to spend some time working late." She's like, "Oh, great, I'll watch a movie, whatever." Like,
Right.
um, so there's a real understanding there, and frankly, like I just get tired and hungry and
Exactly.
want to just like, and those times like I start to like those are fertile idea times too. Like, titles will come to me, or video ideas, or any of that kind of stuff. But and it also gives me time to just kind of sit and noodle too. Like I can practice a little bit. So I try to, and I get up a lot earlier than I used to too. I mean, I'm probably up by 6:30, where I was always like till a 9 or 10 a.m. sleeper kind of guy.
Right.
Because I would stay up late,
Hmm.
but now it's different. I just things have changed.
Yeah, and but it's good too because it's like you are treating it exactly the way you need to. It is your job.
Mhm.
You're not treating it as like, oh, I just, put out some silly videos or maybe a half-cocked lesson, you know what I mean? Like you're taking it extremely seriously like you would for a normal 9 to 5. And I think that's one of the misconceptions that people have is like, I'm going to quit my 9 to 5 so I can go do YouTube or whatever. It's like, well, you're going to trade 40 hours for probably 80 hours at that
Right,
point. You know what I
right.
mean? So uh, it's one of those weird like catch 22s that like people I don't think realize it till they get a little more deeper into it. Because really, especially with YouTube, like you're not going to find a rhythm with what you're doing at least for probably 30 videos, you know what I mean? Until you like really
Yeah,
hone in what you're doing.
which probably like hones in on more of like a year,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's a kind of a year by year basis for me. I kind of figure out, like I'm in a position probably with this year where it's going to be, you know, not only sponsoring, like, promoting my site, but like being able to really offer companies, an avenue to have their gear on. Whereas before, my look was just okay, my presentation was just okay, my delivery and my playing was good, but it wasn't, looking and sounding how I wanted it to. Now it's in a position where I'm really happy with it, and people are like, responding, and that's encouraging to me. Um, to be able to say, okay, let's focus on building it in that direction. So it kind of grows out as opposed to just in one narrow lane.
For sure. And one of the things, I'm kind of in this weird spot right now. I'm still doing everything on a cell phone, which is completely fine.
Yeah.
Anybody that's starting off, there's nothing wrong with that. But I have noticed, that's one of the drawbacks with it. Like you just said, the playing's okay, the delivery's fine, but the look and appeal is not that great. But the good thing about that is that no one's really paying attention right now to the channel.
Yeah.
So I can iron out all those silly mistakes that you're going to make anyway,
Yeah.
with it not looking as professional as like you would, want your videos to look, or even the sound quality. But that's one of the things that I think a lot of people kind of have to take a step back. And I always try to, especially musicians and guitar players, especially, I tell them, I'm like, you remember how hard it was for you just to fret like a bar chord
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
how long it took you to do that? You need to
Yeah.
treat it like the same way with, your content. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're going to have to put the reps in and make sure you get it down, you know?
Yeah, they're looking at it through the wrong lens usually, because
Yeah.
there's also this like, with a lot of the player friends that I have that are like heavyweight pro players,
Hmm.
they look at somebody's inability on the instrument, and that's the first thing that they cut against. They're like, ah, that person, they're not a good player. I'm like, yeah, but they're connecting with a couple 100,000 people because they they sound good, they look good, and they're likable,
Yeah.
they're relatable. And so that would probably discourage like the better player to say, like, well, I'm not gonna I put all this time into my playing, that should be enough. Sorry, it's not.
It's
Because
not.
now you have to put time into this whole other area that you haven't considered. And I didn't consider it either. I certainly didn't want to do this. I mean, you know, if like Sadler Vaden called me up and said, "Hey, I'm quitting Jason Isbell's band. Do you want the gig?" And I'd be like, "Sign me up. I'll be right
Right.
there." and I would do that job, and I think I would do a damn good job at it because that's the kind of guitar player, you know, that I think I can be. I know I can. I mean, I
Hmm.
can do all these different things as a musician, but I can't pull that stuff out of thin air. I had this revelation the other day where like the universe is just dangling this in front of you saying, this is the future. You're already good at it. Do it. And I'm like, okay, you have somebody that wants to help you for free and they're going to manage what you do. Like, okay. Like, and you just take those things as they come, as opposed to like beating my head against the wall and not getting the gigs that I wanted, that don't pay very much anyway. Not, I wouldn't say that, but don't pay a wage that it's all I can do is
Exactly.
that job. Whereas like in the 90s or something, you could maybe have a salary gig. I know
Hmm.
I know plenty of people that have salary touring gigs that still have other jobs on the side.
Yeah.
Like almost all of
Yeah.
them.
Well, that's the biggest thing too, because I had a friend that was talking about not wanting to go, down this way because all you're gonna do is play cover gigs. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but if you get on like a session, what are you doing? You're
Yeah,
playing a cover song.
somebody
What
else's
if
song.
yeah, what if you get on a tour? Well, you're playing all of the artist's songs. Like
Yeah,
you're
that's a really
still
good point.
playing cover songs, man.
You are, and it's funny to watch. I'll address that a few ways because you're just hitting all these great things. You know, people even designing their pedal boards to get the sounds that they need to cover for the records that they need to emulate, which is totally cool. I've done it. I've done it really well and have had fun doing it. But I just took my board to XTS to get wired up.
Oh,
That
nice.
that has nothing to do with any gig I have other than my own sound. It's got a couple pedals on it I really like, some new stuff that I wanted to try, and that's going to be the board. And it's a 20-inch board. It's super small,
Yeah.
got like 9 pedals on it, with a lot of flexibility. But there's no menus, there's no Strymon, there's no Eventide. Not that I don't like all that stuff, I totally do. But generally, that stuff is appealing because you have to have like 10 different kinds of reverbs for different things, and get all that kind of shit. Anyway, which I think is awesome, and I would do it if I had to do it in the particular time. But that combined with the fact that every YouTube video I put out is me playing however I want to play,
Hmm.
and I've never had that opportunity before, ever. And that's what doing any kind of music playing online affords you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Complete originality, you know.
Yeah. Well, and that's what people are going to come back for. Like, yeah, you might get some good views if you do like covers of songs at first,
Yeah.
when you're first starting to start off. Like, yeah, people are going to appreciate it. But if like to go back to like, the thousand true fans and stuff, they
Yep.
want to see you. They want to see what you do. They want to hear your sound,
Man,
you know.
I had a guy. I went to see Tom Bukovac the other night at Third and Lindsley, and oddly enough, a guy that I had online teaching interactions with for years was in the crowd. He was from
Oh,
Colorado.
nice.
He came into town with his girlfriend and his dad, and they were just doing the whole Nashville thing for a week. And that gig, that concert happened to be playing, and he saw me and we talked, and he's been one of these guys. Like sometimes these little like you know little angel figures come in your life and they say things to you that like you didn't think anybody knew because it's in the
Right.
back of your head. And he said, I want to see you doing that because you're so much more than what you are online. And it really touched me because there is a lot more that I want to offer as a musician. And the fact that he said that out of the clear blue sky just blew me away because he's one of those thousand true fans. So there
Yeah.
you go,
Yeah.
so it's out there.
Well, and it's such a nice experience when something like that happens because like I don't care who you are, you always are going to have like a little self-doubt. You're going to have a little bit of
Yeah.
like, man, what am I doing this for? You're always going to have those off days. But situations like that kind of like validate, the
Yeah.
years that you've put in,
I mean,
and it's just a sentence.
yeah, it's right. And the self, and look how long it stuck with me.
Yeah,
It's,
exactly.
or weeks in this case, and it will be for a long, long time. But you take that self doubt situation, then you add a camera to it, and it gets even, more multiplied.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because at that point, you're just sitting staring at an LED screen or your phone or whatever you're
Well,
using.
yeah, but then the critiquing on the other side of
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
is even more debilitating.
Yeah. That's one of the things, man. I just don't I guess I'm not wired the same way, man. Like I just don't even pay attention to that crap.
It's good,
You
you
know,
start to I start to realize, like, that's just some other that's just some guy, that's not me, Not that it's
well,
not me in the transparency or integrity sense, but you have to look at it like, if I sent this to an editor, they wouldn't be looking at me like, "Oh, his hair's out of place," or whatever.
right. And you have to understand too, like those people are not mad at you. They're mad at something else that's going on in their life. Yeah.
100%, and that is such a huge thing to to get in the early stages, is that realization, because
Yeah.
they are angry at something other than your video.
Yep.
They're just
You're
experiencing
just the outlet at that point,
That's it, man.
you know.
That's it.
So going forward for 2023, what do you got on the horizon or anything you can talk about or, you know?
Yeah, lots of stuff. Well, with the live playing thing, it's funny. Like, I've actually tried to be playing at least once a month with a
Nice.
group. Just playing, we're just playing like some of my tunes, but a lot of like, sort of classic blues and R&B covers,
Cool.
but using it as a vehicle to really improvise, in a
Yeah,
sense of like, we're not jazz musicians, but we're going for it as if we are,
for sure. For
kind of.
sure.
And that's how I always grew up playing, and have not had that opportunity in Nashville since I moved here 10 years ago. And uh, to be able to do that now at the Underdog in East Nashville is an awesome opportunity. And there's some other places we're going to play.
Nice.
Um, but it's funny because, you know, there are places to play like that, but I have to pay the guys. Like,
Right.
I can't have them show up for free.
Yeah.
So if I can, it was funny. We were talking at rehearsal the other day about, like, I'd be nice to play this place and this place in a month. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, if you guys were, able to accept less payment, and they all laughed. They're like, oh, you're right. I forgot about that,
Yep.
because like most of these guys that I'm hiring for my gigs, I've been side men with them on other gigs.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so they're looking at me now like the band leader and the artist.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird feeling. Like, I haven't had
Oh,
that
I'm
before.
sure.
So it's a whole new thing. But in that, like, I've been playing some more obscure tunes that I recently recorded, like some like old blues covers that aren't your popular standards. Like, we're not doing like Sweet Home Chicago or anything. It's
Right.
like, some underground stuff, but my own spin. I've been recording those. Hopefully that'll be some of those songs will be out this year.
Nice.
Yeah, and then on top of that, just building my lesson site, workingclassguitar.com, and the goal is to have, by next month, a new course offering every month for the rest of the year.
Nice.
So that would really build my library. So if somebody wants to sign up at I don't know how, if you do this, but I'm happy to offer anybody listening a discount on the site, and
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
they can try it free for 14 days. I'll give you a link, and it's
Cool.
just like $10 a month after that, actually 9. But the hope is, after a year, there'll be, 8 or 10 new courses in addition to what's already there. So
Mm-hmm.
you can just go nuts and download tracks and get tabs and all kinds of stuff, and then do our Zoom calls and whatever else, or, or buy courses a la carte if you want. And then, keep doing videos. I have some companies that have reached out recently that are some of my favorite companies to work with, and I'll be doing some product launches for them.
Nice.
Um, but again, like, one of the things I want people to know is, there's people out there that do this that are just like, gonna you pay me the right amount, I'll do a video for your pedal. Like,
For
that's
sure.
not how I do it. Like,
Yeah.
I work with like probably a half a dozen brands that I'm legit friends with, and that's usually what you see. And, the frequency of how they put stuff out usually allows me to pepper those in my channel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the biggest thing, man, is you want to be friends and you want to help support those companies because you
Yeah.
are, fan of that company or those
Yeah,
companies,
and the relationship is what matters. Like,
Yes.
I made some new friends at a really large guitar company recently that
Nice.
I never, and you'll see some stuff coming out. I won't spoil it. You would, I would never expected to make that connection um, up until a couple months ago, and I always wanted to work with one of the people at the company because I admired what they did from an artist relation standpoint,
Hmm.
and we hit it off, and they're lovely people, and that's what happens. That
Yeah.
wouldn't have happened a couple years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, man, just putting in the work and, keep, chugging away at stuff. And, the possibilities are almost endless with what you can do. You know,
Absolutely.
that's one of the biggest things that I've tried to push on the show. But before we wrap this up, I know you already talked about your site, but we can plug it again. Let's get all your other plugs out of the way too.
Oh man, that'd be awesome. I mean, the biggest one is, my YouTube channel. You can find me just under my name, Corey Congilio. And then my lesson website is workingclassguitar.com. Like I said, I'll give you a link. You can try the whole site free for 14 days. After that, it's just $9 a month with that coupon link I'll give you. Uh,
Nice.
and hit me, you can message me there. You can sign up for the mailing list there. My artist website is CoreyCongilio.com, which is basically just a hub to point you back to the lessons and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
so there's that kind of stuff out there. Find me on the occasional Instagram post and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's not easy to find. It's not hard to find me
There you go. Yeah.
out there. So yeah, I'm happy to talk to anybody listening to this that has any questions.
Nice. All right. Well, hey, that'll all be posted down below in the show notes. So if you guys want to check out any of the awesome stuff Corey's been up to and what he will be up to in the future, like you guys know, that'll all be there. So get down in the show notes and check all that stuff out. Corey, had a great time talking to you, dude.
Likewise, man. Thanks for reaching out and inviting me.
Absolutely, man. But for Corey, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, and we will see you guys next week on Man the Helm Podcast.